Mastro, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to look at the automotive revolutionary Henry Ford, um, born July 30th, 1863. If you look to the eastern horizon when he was born, we're using Vedic sidereal zodiac, by the way, not Western astrology. If you look to the eastern horizon when he was born, you would see the constellation associated with Leo rising at 8 degrees. 8 degrees becomes the most effective point of every house. Any planet like Mercury, like Saturn, like Rahu and Ketu, which are planetary nodes of the moon, and also moon, that are within 5 degrees, have a lot of impact in the chart, one way or another. So let's look, we're going to look and see how the planets are operating, their functional nature, and then we're going to see when the planets are operating and what we could do to fix the chart. Fix your chart, fix your life. So let's start out and see where we give precedence to the Multicorner signs. For example, Venus rules Taurus and Libra, but Libra is the Multicorner sign. So the Multicorner signs are 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 11. And wherever they're found in your chart are the things that you're working on in this lifetime. Each one of these spaces is some aspect of your life. So whenever a multiconal sign falls in the 6th, the 8th, or the 12th, the Dustana or challenging houses, they become what we say is functionally malefic. So in this case, moon is normally thought in Vedic astrology as well as Mercury, Sun, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, all to be benefic. But whenever they fall in these houses, they act like a malefic. So moon in this case can cause some harm. If it's within 5 degrees in the transit, it's aspected or afflicting or conjunct within the natal or the transit chart, as well as Rahu and Ketu. So let's just look and see. So the multicorner signs are Leo, ruled by Sun, in the first house. So learning about what he came here to do, his life purpose, learning about longevity, and confidence, self-worth. Then we have the sixth sign of Virgo, ruled by Mercury, in the second house, learning about wealth and the continuation of the marital bond, his reputation. Then we have the seventh sign of Libra, ruled by Venus, in the third house of entrepreneurial success, learning about that. Then we have the ninth sign of Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, in the fifth house, children, investments, education, creativity, really learning how to use his creativity in this lifetime. Then we have the 11th sign of Aquarius, ruled by Saturn, in the 7th house. Learning about partnerships, franchises, investors, and marriage. He had some affairs. Then we have the first sign of Aries, ruled by Mars, in the 9th house. 9th house is good fortune and belief systems. He had a lot of different belief systems, which we'll talk about. Then we have, again, that malefic moon in the 12th house. 12th house has to do with losses, expenses, debts, hospitalization, etc. So let's go through these individually. So we have a week, and any planets that are less than 5 degrees are said to be in infant state. Greater than 25 degrees are in old age. If a planet is combust too close to the sun, or it's afflicted or debilitated, or its dispositor is weak, then it becomes weak. So here we have a weak moon. So Sun, Mercury automatically become weak. So Sun, a weak Sun, gives life purpose, ruling the house of life purpose, through leadership abilities, which are Sun qualities, and being in the 12th house, some charity work. He did a lot of work with charities. 12th house is, philanthropy. Then, and it's conjunct Mercury, which is business. So through his business, um, uh, and then Sun represents father. So he didn't get much support from his father. He left home at 16 to go work in a machine shop in Detroit. His father didn't approve of it, wanted him to stay on the farm. Now, weak Sun also can be related to heart issues. He had several strokes in his life. And then it's also related to government. He had some issues with the government. They were going to take over his business when he went bankrupt a few times. Then we have a weak moon. We said it can cause harm, functionally malefic, at 14 degrees, and it is creating some stress. Stress to his mother's death. Moon represents mother, and this was a really transformational point in his life, and he put all of his energy into tinkering with machinery as an outlet for his grief. Now, Moon is placed in that sixth house of health issues. Moon also represents heart, and this is also bankruptcy, debts, and legal issues with the government as well. So all of that's related to that sixth house. So not much support from his mother as well, because she died when he was 12 years old. Now he did do the remedies for a malefic moon, gave to hospitals, institutions. This is the house of institutions, orphanages, institutions, and created trade schools and really supported women. Moon is women, so supported women workers when it wasn't thought of to have factory workers as women and pay them good wages, and also supported the women's right to vote, the suffrage. Um, so yeah, then he had a also strong, but it was weak Mars. Mars is ruling is placed in the it's ruling the house of good fortune and belief systems, and it's placed in the first house. Now the first house is ruled by Sun. Sun is weak, so Mars becomes weak. So it had some good qualities, but basically gave good fortune through Mars qualities, ambition, mechanical abilities, engines. Mars is represented by engines. He invented lots of engines. Engineering is also related. He was an engineer, mechanical engineer. And he had some strong beliefs in reincarnation. He believed this is a house of past life karma, punya. And so he believed in, that you could do good deeds and then move on and advance in the next life. He also had strong beliefs about pacifism, consumerism, which be the keys to world peace. He also had some anti-Semitic beliefs that he reversed at some point in his life. Race cars, competition, was involved in those. Mercury, it's weak, and it's at 10 degrees, close to the most effective point. Now, and I forgot to mention, Mars is a Moon is afflicting this sixth house of health issues and debts and legal issues as well. So because it's close to the most effective point, within 5 degrees. So this Mercury says that it's ruling the house of wealth, so that he can get wealth through business. Mercury is about business, buy, sell, trade, sell of cars. Mercury is sale of cars. And abstract thought, his analytical abilities to take things apart, put things together, and invent things. And leadership through his failures. Mercury is in the house of losses, so there were many failures on the way to his success, many bankruptcies, etc. And it's again conjunct Sun, so giving that leadership aspect to Mercury. Now Mercury also here in the 12th house could create some controversial speech, again with his anti-Semitic views. Um, so then let's look at Jupiter. Jupiter is ruling the house of creativity, children, investments, education. So he supported educational charities or trade schools, and very focused on helping children, orphanages, and then also we have educating others about engines and how to make good engines. Um, and then invention, basically his creativity gave him his wealth. Basically, it's placed in the house of wealth. But it did create some weak morals because it's in old age, and so he did have affairs. This is the house of marital bond, and it's weakened by Jupiter there. So and morals, like he terrorized the unions. So then let's see here, and government and legal issues is also related to Jupiter. Venus is at 0 degrees, very weak, and it is ruling the house of entrepreneurial success. So we get entrepreneurial success through Venus, which is vehicles, and through his wife. It's weak, so there were some affairs. It's placed in the house of marital bond, so some weakness there. And then also against organizations and unions. So that all contributes there. Then we have Saturn is weak. It's influencing a few different houses here, 3, 7, and 10 houses away, and it is ruling the house of partnership. So huge benefit was his ability to create these assembly lines of workers and create automobiles at an affordable price for the masses. Saturn represents the masses. It represents service to charities. It represents hard work and franchise. The whole franchise system is really part of his big success. So that is a lot of relationship things. And this also house, the seventh house, has to do with the sale of cars as well. So gave him a lot of determination and discipline to get through these a lot of bankruptcies and failures to become successful in the end. And then also the marital stability is affected here again by the weak Saturn. Rahu and Ketu. So they are always trying to balance things. They're close to the most effective point. They can cause harm. So they are afflicting, 6 out of his 12 houses. There's this balance of home life and work life. And it's also this created an inner conflict, so lack of peace with Rahu in the 4th house. Now, desire for vehicles. The 4th house is vehicles, to create vehicles, but there's a lack of peace. So he had a minister that he went to because he was had a lot of inner conflict. He had on one hand this determination that kind of separated him from everyone else, including his family, and these impulses to go out and have affairs, etc. So this minister said that he was great in creating these assembly lines, but he couldn't assemble his life. So inner conflict there. So let's look at the timing of events. He was born in a Jupiter period. Jupiter is, this invention and this creativity that was at the root of his tree of life. He had his first machine shop job also during a Jupiter period that gave him, expansion to his career. Got married in a Venus, approaching a Venus period, Venus his wife. He, in 1893, he created his first engine during a Mars period, Mars's engines. He had a son, Edsel, during a Jupiter period. Jupiter is weak, so just one child. And Jupiter is the significator for children. Created the first horseless carriage during also a Jupiter period. Jupiter, and again, inventing, creating things. It's placed in the house of wealth and recognition. 1903, created the assembly line for the Model A during a Jupiter-Venus period. Again, Venus is success, entrepreneurial success. And then we have created the Model T during a Jupiter-Mars period. Mars, again, also representing engines, Jupiter expansion of his engines. Then his son died, and in 1944, during a period where Jupiter was afflicted, and this devastated him. His son had taken over the business, and he had to get re-involved in the business, and he was just devastated by his son's death, like he was his mother's death. And he died in 1947, 3 years later, during a Mercury-Saturn period. So Saturn has to do with longevity, and Mercury has to do with continuation of the family there. So basically, if we look at the transit chart, the outer circle is where the planets were when he died. The inner circle is where the planets were when he was born. So you see that Rahu and Ketu are very close to the most effective point in the transit and the natal chart, right on top of each other. So they're afflicting 6 out of his 12 houses. So the house of illness, the 6th house, the 8th house of death-like experiences, and the 12th house of endings, among other houses. And so we see Saturn, the indicator for longevity, in the house of end of life. And then we have Sun, indicator for the heart, in the house of death-like experiences. Mars, hemorrhaging. He died of a cerebral hemorrhage, which is a stroke, basically. He had several strokes in his life, indication of a weak heart. And so, yeah, I think those are the main things about his life. Now, what could we do to fix this chart and improve his life? Well, we can transform the malefics, which he's already doing. He's giving to the women's charities and a lot of different organizations for people who cannot help themselves, which is Rahu, giving to spiritual organizations. He was somewhat spiritual, even though he had these moral conflicts in his life, ethics issues. And then some chanting would also be helpful. Ganesh chants for Ketu, Shiva chants for Rahu, and also Shiva chants for Moon. So those are the malefics. We want to transform, not strengthen them. The rest of the planets that are weak, we would want to strengthen. And we would do that by strengthening Jupiter. It could be with a yellow sapphire, Saturn with a blue sapphire, Venus with a diamond, Mars with a red coral, Sun with a ruby, Mercury with a emerald. Or you could wear a kavash, which is a silver locket containing the Devata yantras for these planets. So if you would like to get a reading, you can go to www.vastucreations.com under services. If you would like to learn transformational Vedic astrology and help yourself and other people, you can go to American Institute of Vastu.com. We have a level 1 and 2 certification course. And what I tell everyone is, if you know your chart, you can fix your chart, you know the tendencies you have, it can transform your life. So yeah, getting a consultation, even a yearly reading, can change your life for the better. Thank you for listening, and join us again for our next YouTube.